There is one more big confusion from Rome. In fact, it was discovered by Dan Montagna, a reporter, Vatican reporter, who's very much into languages, particularly Italian. She's just perfect in Italian. When she looked at the texts, she discovered, lo and behold, in the Italian, in the official text, paragraph 38 of Fiducia Supplicans, because in the beginning it does talk very specifically about the possibility of blessing for irregular couples and same-sex couples. So we're talking about couples already, and that created much consternation, particularly in Africa. But she discovered something even beyond that, because in America, particularly, there were people arguing about, no, it's for individuals, but it says couples. But yes, but the text says individuals. And then came something of a bombshell when she reports that, wait a minute, actually in the Italian original, it doesn't say for individuals. It talks about for them. In the German, für sie, which is a totally plural, it's not. And in Spanish, para ellos, and in other languages, there's about 5 languages there. Even in Dutch, we checked, it's not Dutch, excuse me, Polish. It also is the plural only. So somehow there's some fooling around going on, making in English I don't know, it's some kind of leaning toward perhaps a more orthodox interpretation, because, well, that's where all the pushback comes from, usually in English-speaking countries. And now it's English-speaking Africa and America as well. What's your take on that? It was just stunning to me.
Well, once again, confusion. And one thing that I would point out that is, I think, problematic, certainly could be dealt with, but for many, many years, I would presume centuries. I don't claim to know that for sure, but I know when I studied canon law, what we learned is the official texts were always published in Latin. And I can see now why that's so important, because, as you know, translations can, as you're pointing out, can make a total difference in the meaning, and it can be critical to what we're talking about. And so the wisdom of the church using Latin as the standard, as the home base language to be used always, it really helps to avoid the confusion. And you can, like the Code of Canon Law, you have a Latin text. And you can have different ideas about certain translations of Latin, but some, like you're pointing out, some of it's totally clear. In Spanish, I know some Spanish, ellos means them. It doesn't mean anything else. If you're using that word, you're speaking of a plural, them. And so that's one level of problem that I see with issuing a text in Italian. Why not issue it in Latin? And then be very clear about the translations of those Latin words into the different languages. Beyond that, it doesn't help. I applaud you and Diane and other journalists who are watching things. And that's what you need to do, is to point out, was it a mistake? It needs to be corrected. Was it intentional? With what sort of intent was there? And to me, without even trying to figure out why this was done, if it was done intentionally, if it was not an editing error, which I presume it wasn't, or that would have been made very clear already. Oh, we edited it wrong, and here's the proper correction. And that can happen. We both edited text. And you can have a mistake there. But it's very troublesome. And to me, probably the heart of what troubles me about it is that, again, it gives fodder to people who love to attack the church. It gives people, information that says, there's deceit here. You hate to make that judgment, but having a brain, you can say, well, that is one path you can go down. And that's a very difficult and problematic path, to say there's an intentional deceit happening with one in translation in English and another in another language, that what's going on there? And that becomes, I mean, we have such a problem in the world today, not just in the church, but across the board with authority and trusting authority. And these kind of things don't help when people that are ready to just tear the church down can say, see, they're being deceptive in the way they're doing this. You would hate to even think that, but it opens the door for that kind of speculation.